Everyone thinks homeschoolers are weird, unsocialized, like misfits. And I'm here to let you know that is not the case. If you're new here, I'm Xuan from the Homeschool Front blog, and this is my channel, Life in the Trenches, where I share all things about homeschooling, how you can make it simple, easy, and stress-free. And before I was a homeschool parent, I was a history teacher, a middle school history teacher to be exact. And I've been homeschooling my 3 kids for, I don't know, 6 years? I guess 6 years now, or 7 years. My son's in 7th grade, so 7 years. We started when he was in 1st grade. And I have a 7th grader, a 2nd grader, and a kindergartner. And I am a secular homeschooler, but I guess some people would say I'm secular-ish because I have no problem using curriculum that isn't secular. I just kind of skip over what I don't want to use. No big deal. So today is a collaboration hosted by Shauna from Making Everyday Magic. I'm sure you've checked out her channel before because she's a very popular secular homeschooler. But if you have not, make sure you check the link down below and check out her channel and also her playlist for today's collaboration. And it is a collaboration all about socialization, that naughty word when it comes to homeschooling, that word that no one wants to hear about, that everyone asks questions about. And today we're going to dispel all of those false claims about socialization and homeschooling. So let's get to it. Now, thankfully, Shauna was so nice to create a list of questions so that we could all stay on track, because if you know anything about me, you know I'm easily sidetracked. Oftentimes I'll make videos about a topic and then end up talking about something else. Question number 1. Have you always homeschooled? Well, like I said before, we've been homeschooling since my oldest son was in 1st grade. So my 2 youngest have been homeschooled their whole life. My oldest, he did go to kindergarten, 1 year of kindergarten and 1 year of preschool, and he did not like it. And I spent a lot of time in the classroom. So I'm like, well, if I'm spending all this time in the classroom, why not just homeschool him myself? So here we are today. Second question is, what are your fears surrounding socialization and your decision to homeschool? So I guess, I had a really good experience in the public school system when I was a kid, but that was like back in the 80s, and I had really good teachers. The classrooms weren't overcrowded like they are now. It wasn't all about standardized testing. So it was a good balance between education and making friends and all that. Of course, I've had some problems as a kid with friendships, but I think that happens with everyone. That's just part of growing up, is learning how to make friends and keep friends and, having healthy relationships. I even know some adults that don't have healthy relationships now. So it's like something that we constantly are learning how to have friendships, right? And so I guess with homeschooling, my fear was that my son wouldn't have as many friends as he would have if he went to a traditional school. But given that, it's no guarantee that he would have a ton of friends. Like, my oldest son is a bookworm, and he likes gaming and kind of computer stuff. And, who knows what it would have been like if he went to a traditional school. He is also very sensitive as well. So I guess my fear would be my kids wouldn't have as many friends as they could possibly have if they went to a traditional school. But we did have a core group of friends that, from back when I was in a mom group, and which is a whole nother story. It's like dating when it comes to mom group. So, we had friends from there, but they were all in traditional schools, so we didn't meet up with them that often. But I did make sure that my son and all my kids take classes with other kids so that they can get to know other people and hang out with them. We're not isolated. I think people think that homeschoolers are just at home and they're just isolated in this tiny little bubble, and that's not the case, especially with secular homeschoolers. I think we're more apt to put our kids out there in other types of social situations. We're not worried about them getting brainwashed or anything like that, because we accept our kids' autonomy and their choices that they make in life. Not to say that religious folks don't do that. I know plenty of Christians and Buddhists and Muslims and Wiccans and you name it that, are very open and want their kids to experience the world and not be scared of others with different opinions, etc. That being said, those fears that I had about my son not having as many friends didn't scare me away from homeschooling. We didn't homeschool to shelter my son or my other kids as well. We decided to homeschool to enrich their education, to enrich their learning environment, and have flexibility, because that's one, I think that's the main reason why we homeschooled, was for the flexibility, because my husband does often work out of town, and homeschooling allows us often to join him when he is working out of town. And I'm sure that was like all a bunch of word salad. I don't know if I answered that question, but let's move on to number 3. I gotta tilt up so I can look through my reading glasses. I got progressive glasses going on here because your girl here is getting old. How, in your experience, have those fears been true? My kids are on the shyer side, but I'm not too sure that is because they were homeschooled. Because if you had known me growing up, and I was a public school kid, I was shy too. Not that I was insecure. My kids are not insecure, but it's just more, we're introverts and we don't like small talk. So I guess they don't have as many friends as they could have. But I don't know, like when I was in public school, there was a lot of friends, but like good friends. I only had like 1 or 2 best friends, you know what I mean? And then the rest were just like more people you sometimes hung out with or acquaintances or whatever. And my kids have that too. They have like 1 or 2 really good friends, and the rest are like kids that they play with or hang out with, but they wouldn't call them best buds, you know? They're acquaintances, etc. So I don't really think it's that much different. I don't know. I mean, my kids have opportunity to make friends, and they do, so I don't know. So how in your experience have those fears been off base? I guess I kind of already mentioned that already. Like they have friends, like there's no problem there. Could they have more friends? Sure. Are they on the shyer side? Yeah. Is that like a bad thing? No. Are they lonely? No. Do they have opportunity to meet other people and hang out with people? Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, as a former history teacher, having, you know, each year, I think I had like over 90 students a year. And there's like a vast spectrum of outgoingness and everything. There's no guarantee that if you sent your child to like a public school or traditional school that they're gonna have a ton of friends. Like, some people had a lot of friends, some people were very popular, and some people were not. Some people were bullied, and some people were not. Some people were quiet and kept to themselves. Some people were exuberant and very loud and very talkative. So there's just a wide spectrum. And I think like if you know, depending on your child, you know who your child better than anyone else. And if they're very outgoing and social, then they're going to be more outgoing and social and have more friends than those that are more introverted. So, I mean, that's just, it's personality and not homeschooling. Number 5, how has being a secular homeschooler impacted your homeschoolers' socialization? I don't think it has really impacted it. I think, well, I don't know, when we tried joining a wild and free group, they're supposed to be open to all, but they are primarily Christian and conservative, at least here where I live. And so that was kind of a challenge for me, I guess, for me personally. And my kids just didn't really vibe with all the other kids there. At least my older son didn't, because he was the oldest one there. Everyone else was much younger. And I think it's because that group was formed out of a mom group. So like they all met when their kids were like all the same age and young. And so it was kind of cliquey and all that, which I don't vibe with. So that was the only challenge that I had. But for the most part, most of the homeschoolers here in our community are secular, or at least they're secular-ish. They homeschool through charter schools, and charter schools are funded by the state. And so there was no problem. I don't know, there is no problem. I had a friend that for Halloween, she was wearing a Hocus Pocus shirt, and a homeschool mom like reprimanded her about it, saying that she was teaching her kids about the devil or something like that, and it's just like, okay. But for the most part, people are not like that. People are very welcoming and open, and a majority of our homeschool friends are secular, but you know, we also have friends that are not. Former next door neighbors, they're Catholic homeschoolers, and we hung out with them quite a bit. I don't have a problem with anyone. Some people may have a problem with me, but I don't have a problem with anyone. And my kids are cool. Number 6, what are your observations about the socialization debate? I think it's people that aren't homeschooling are bringing that up because they just want you to be like everyone else and put your child in traditional school. That's all it is. You just have to lean into the fact that homeschooling is an alternative education. It's an alternative lifestyle, and people are gonna poo-poo it because it's not mainstream or normal. That's just what they do. You just ignore them and you move on. All right, number 7, what do you do to make sure that your kids get social time? So like I said, my kids take classes, so they meet kids there. We also, oftentimes after their classes, we have a park day, because usually the classes are at like at a community center and there's a park right next to it. So we just all go hang out there afterwards. And there's, you know, all different homeschoolers. Some stay, some don't stay. Also, I put my 2 youngest in an enrichment center. It's like an all-day thing, and they hang out with kids there. They're all homeschooled as well. And we also, you know, we have our friends that are going to traditional schools and family as well. And we hang out with them when we see them, when they are off. When they are not in school, they get plenty of time. And then also, you know, nowadays kids are online playing games online, and my kids do that as well. They play with their friends online. Some of their friends and family live out of state. So number 8, what tips do you have to help calm the fears of fellow homeschoolers about a lack of socialization? Don't worry about it. I know that's hard. You know your kids and you want them to have more opportunities to hang out with other kids, then you put them in classes, in-person classes with other kids. I mean, you can do online classes too, but there's something about doing things in person, being face-to-face, having conversations and playing with them. So in-person classes and enrichment centers, there's a ton out there. Like homeschooling is growing and growing and growing. And there are a lot of companies, like educational companies realizing this, and they're branching out, like their tutoring services. Like we had local tutors here that now have enrichment classes for homeschoolers, like during the day. There's just a lot of opportunity there. It's not like, you know, 15, 20, 30, 40 years ago when there wasn't. It's much, even though it's still an alternative lifestyle, it's much more mainstream, especially after the whole pandemic and everything. It's much more mainstream than it used to be. So just put your kids in classes, research, look it up, see what's available, see what your kids want to do. Don't force them into friendships and stuff, you know, don't force them to make friends. You know, you may have an introvert on your hand, and forcing them to make friends does not work. And that comes from an introvert right here. Don't force your kids. Number 9, is there anything about your journey relating to socialization that you would change? I would have put my 2 youngest in an enrichment center earlier. The only reason why we did not, besides my husband's accident, was also because it's a bit of a drive to get to the enrichment center that we go to, and I was waiting until my youngest was a little bit older to tackle that drive, 30, 40 minutes depending on traffic. So that, yeah, I would have put them in it earlier. My oldest, he's fine. Maybe I would have added him to that enrichment center as well. Like now he's getting old, he doesn't want to do it. But maybe if I had put him in earlier when he was still younger, then maybe he would continue, he would want to do it and still be in it today, because there are teenagers there as well. We don't really see them, they do other things compared to the little kids. And then number 10, what has been the craziest comment you've received about socialization? To be honest, I've never really gotten any weird comments about it. I mean, I don't know, maybe because we're here in California and people are not as they are opinionated. I don't know, my cousin in Texas tells me how opinionated some of the people she comes across are, and she's a public school teacher and her son goes to public school, but she's single, and so they are opinionated about that, I guess. I have never had any problems with that, and I don't think will have problems either. But if you live in an area where there aren't a lot of homeschoolers, I understand why it may be a struggle to do, but you know, put your kids in after school programs. You know, you can do your homeschooling during the day and then put your kids in after school programs or sports in the afternoon. You know, count that as socialization. I think the more stress and worry we put on something, then the more of a big issue it becomes. And to be honest, I don't think socialization is a big issue. I mean, technically, when you put your kids in school, they're not there to socialize, they're there to learn, right? And when you're homeschooling your kids, you're teaching them, you're homeschooling them, they're not there to socialize. But if you want them to socialize, then put them in environments where they can socialize, like classes, enrichment centers, sports, etc. I hoped you found value in that video. It's hot here. We're having like a heat wave here in Southern California. I don't do well in the heat. I'm too spoiled living by the ocean. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, make sure you do. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. That's my goal for this year, to get to 1,000 before the end of the year, before 2024 starts. And if you're interested in learning more about my homeschooling journey, make sure you check out this video right here, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Ciao.